Hello, everybody, and welcome to Intro to Psychology. My name is Sean Fox. I'm going to be your professor here at Indian River State College over this semester. The purpose of this video is first just to introduce myself to all of you, let you know that even though this is an online class, yes, you do have a real live professor that you can communicate with that's always here to help. But probably more importantly, the purpose of this video is to also just give you a nice little foundational overview of what to expect during this semester, what to expect from this class, and just sort of some tips on how to navigate, especially during this first week until you kind of get the hang of the class. So when you first log into the course, this is the page that's going to show up. It's called the welcome page or the landing page, some people call it. Read over this. If you are returning after this first week, you've already done everything, then you can just simply go to the modules page over here or go to this tab that says modules. But during this first week, when you're first logging into the class, the absolute first thing I want you to do, not surprisingly, is you're going to click on the Start Here button. Start Here button is going to take you to the specific page where it's going to actually walk you through everything that you need to do at the beginning of the course. First thing you're going to do, you're all probably already doing this, right? Watch the welcome video. It's not showing up here on the screen because I'm recording it, but obviously once I'm done recording it, it'll show up here. After that's done, you're going to click on the syllabus, which I'm going to go over the syllabus here briefly in a second. The step 3, resources. So on this, it's a little bit of a helpful tip of things to keep in mind to be successful in the course. It's also a list of different resources that you'll have access to, both with the school and then outside the school, as well as some information about if you miss a class or if you're having problems with attendance or anything like that. So definitely something important. You need to read over all of that. Last step on here is actually not the last step. Fourth step is going to be to take the orientation quiz. The orientation quiz is multiple choice. It's 10 questions. You must pass the orientation quiz in order to open up the course content. You can take it as many times as you want, but it must be 100% in order to unlock the course content. During the first week, you're also going to do a discussion. So after you take the quiz, take it as many times as you need to pass it with 100%. Next step is to go into the discussion. The discussion is very easy. In fact, I'll click on it here real quick just to show you. And in fact, this is how it'll show up when you log in. So basically all you're going to do is just tell us a few things about yourself, right? Introduce yourself, share whatever information you feel comfortable with sharing, maybe why you're taking the class, what your major is, where you're from, interests, hobbies, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing. One thing to keep in mind, so with the discussions, if you go up to this little 3-dot button, it'll show you the rubric. All discussions will have a rubric. This is how I'm going to grade your discussion post. In order to do a discussion post, after you read the instructions, you read the rules, you're going to click reply, and then you're going to start typing. This counts as your initial post. Once you have an initial post, and hopefully you're writing more than just hello, you'll see everybody else's initial post. So you must do an initial post. After that's done, you'll see everybody else's. Once you do your initial post and you see everybody else's initial post, then you can go in and respond to one of your fellow classmates. And you do that just by looking underneath their post, hitting reply, and then typing your response. So pretty easy. All discussion posts require for you to do an initial post by Thursday prior to midnight of the week that they're open, and to respond to another student's post by the following Sunday at midnight. So 2 requirements for that, right? Initial post and then a response. The initial post must be 200 words. The response must be 50 words, and this is substantive writing, folks. So it's not just saying, hey, I liked what you said. Good job, right? It has to actually be like you're having a conversation with someone. So let me go back now to where I was just at. All right, so I'm back here at this welcome page. I mentioned the syllabus, which I am going to go over here in a second. The resources, talked about the quiz. Quizzes to take are very easy, right? I'm just going to click on this real quick. It'll pull up, it'll give you the instructions. Now, if you want to go back to that page I was just at, you can hit that Start Here button. It'll take you back to that main page. If you're ready to begin the quiz, you just hit where it says Begin. And it's pretty cut and dry after that. It's loading right now. It'll ask the questions. You'll have the opportunity to answer it. And again, for this quiz, you can do it as many times as you need. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll back. All right, so I'm all the way through step 5 here. Step 6. This is kind of critical. So in this class, you do need to have the access code for the textbook. So step 6 is going to talk about how you obtain that and then what you need to do. There's really 3 options for this access code, right? You can either buy it through the Indian River bookstore. You can buy it through what's called McGraw-Hill Connect. That's the textbook publisher. And there's a link that's included in here. The other option is if you're unable to pay for that access code right now, and I believe the fee is somewhere like 70 or 80 bucks if you buy it through the bookstore, you can do a temporary access. The temporary access, they say it's 2 weeks. Truthfully, it actually ends a few days before that. Because it's usually based on when I load the course material, which is usually a day or 2 before the course starts. So those are your 3 options. You absolutely need to get the access code. You don't actually need the hard copy of the book, but you do need the access code for it. So when you go through this page, it'll talk not just about those options that I just mentioned, but it'll also talk about the steps for registering it. So whether you already bought that access code, you are in need of buying it and you want to buy it directly through McGraw-Hill Connect, or you want to take advantage of that free temporary access, you're going to follow these exact same steps. 2 things to keep in mind. First one is when you are registering, make sure you use your Indian River State College student email. Don't use an email for a high school if you're a dual enrollment student. Don't use a private email. Use your Indian River State College student email. The second thing to keep in mind here, folks, and I just kind of mentioned if you're dual enrollment. If you're dual enrollment, typically course material is provided, but I don't provide it to you in the class. That is something you're going to have to take up with either an advisor with Indian River State College or more than likely an advisor with your high school, because they have to get that material to you. Keep in mind, folks, if you are using that access, that temporary access, if you want to use it, you are responsible for having full access at some point. Basically, if you decide to do the temp access for 2 weeks, and now we're at the end of the 2 weeks, you're like, oh my God, I still can't afford this access code. I'll just email the professor and explain this, and then he'll extend it out another 2 or 3 weeks for me. It doesn't work like that. At the end of that time, you must have that access code one way or another. I do allow students to work ahead in the class, so you can kind of work ahead to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. So this is very important, and regardless of what you're going to do for those options, it says right here basically exactly how you need to do this, the registration steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So just make sure you read over this page carefully. It'll literally walk you through exactly what you need to do. There's videos that are included in it. Please don't skip steps. Don't assume and just try to kind of rush the process here. Take your time, actually read it. All right, so we're back at this main page. We've gone all the way through step 6. The last step on here is completely optional. It's my bio, so it just talks a little bit about myself, my past. There is a link here for my office hours. Office hours are held via Zoom every Friday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. They are optional, but if you have questions, you have concerns, there's anything that you need to address with me, that's the avenue in which you should do it, is through those office hours. All right, so I'm going to go back here and kind of go all the way back to step 2. I mentioned that I would go over the syllabus, so I'm going to go over the syllabus here real quick. Obviously, you should also read over the syllabus. It's very important that you do that, so I'm not going to read this word for word, but I do intend or hope that all of you do that. So a couple things I already kind of talked about here as far as getting in touch with me. So my email address is listed here. It's sfox1, that is a 1, not an I, at indianriverstatecollege.edu. The preferred way, though, for students to reach me is through what's called Canvas Mail or Canvas Inbox. So I'm going to show you real quick what that entails. So I'm back on Canvas here, and over on the side where it says Inbox, you're going to click on that. Once you click on that, it'll have a drop-down box to select the course. Once you select the course, there'll be a second drop-down box next to it that will give you the option of selecting the teacher. The reason why this is the preferred way for you to reach out to me is when you send me email this way, it automatically populates with the course information, which is very helpful because I teach several different classes every semester. I teach upwards of 150 to 200 students every semester. So especially early on in the semester, when I get an email from a student that doesn't have that information and they just ask something like, I'm lost, what do I need to do during the first week? Well, I don't know. I don't know what class you're in. I don't know any of that information. So then I have to respond back, and then you have to respond, and it just takes up a lot of time. So the preferred way for you to reach me is through that feature. Now keep in mind, and this is very important, I do not answer emails that are received after 5 p.m. on Friday. Let me rephrase. I'll answer them, but I'm going to answer them on Monday. The reason why that's really important is almost all the assignments other than the discussion boards are going to be due Sunday at midnight. So what I have a problem with sometimes is students will just assume, you know what, I'll figure things out on Saturday or Sunday and everything will be okay. Saturday or Sunday comes, they have a problem, they email me, well, I'm not going to respond until after the due date for the assignments. So don't procrastinate. Don't assume everything's going to work perfectly for you on Saturday or Sunday. Take a look at it beforehand, because as long as you send me that email before 5 p.m. on Friday, I'll answer it. I won't say ASAP. I usually try to answer emails very, very quickly. However, I am a human being. I do have a life. I usually answer them within 2 days. But especially those ones on Friday, I'll look at it, and if it's sent before 5 p.m., I'll make sure I answer it by that night. All right, back to the syllabus. I talked about the virtual office hours. I told you where you can find that. And again, it's Fridays from 1 to 3. Those are completely optional. A little bit of a bio again about myself. Here's the other link for my office hours. The general learning outcomes, course learning outcomes, I'm not going to go into about that. The course textbook I have already talked about. I mentioned that. Scrolling down a little bit more here, we have the important dates for the course, grading and grades. So there really are a couple different components to your grade. The first one is discussions. The second component is what's called practice assignments, chapter quizzes, and then we have exams. There's a total of 3 different exams in this course. Now, I'll show you in a little bit how the typical week is set up. That McGraw-Hill Connect that I've talked about and how to register for your textbook, the access code, you specifically need that because the practice assignments and the chapter quizzes will require you to take them through McGraw-Hill Connect. You'll access the assignments in Canvas, but it will require for you to have access, that access card in order to take these. In addition, the discussions, which every week there will be a discussion also, oftentimes are based off these practice assignments. And keep in mind, even though it has the word practice in that name, practice assignments, they are graded. They're just worth a smaller amount of points. And indeed, after this first week of class, I would say most weeks in this course will have at least one practice assignment. There's 2 weeks that don't. And every week in this class will have a chapter quiz and will have a discussion board. The exams in this class, there's 3 total. The first exam will require for you to use HonorLock, which I'll give you more information as we get closer to that. Basically, it's an online proctoring service. The second 2 exams will not use that. They will just solely be where you take it online. There are no exams in this class that are cumulative for the whole semester. So exam 1 just covers the first third, exam 2 covers the middle third, exam 3 covers the final third. Scroll down here a little bit more. I think I pretty much covered most of the information here. Faculty-student interaction. So unfortunately, I really hate that I have to mention this, but sadly, history has taught me that I do need to talk about this. I am all about professionalism. I'm all about respect. If you have a question, folks, reach out to me. I love helping students. I absolutely do love helping students. But be respectful, be polite. If you're sending me emails, use proper grammar, use proper English. Don't just get angry and upset because you think that something happened that shouldn't have happened and fire off a really nasty email to me. I can tell you, in the time I've been at Indian River for several years, I have had students curse at me. I have had students threaten me. It's not tolerated, folks. I don't care necessarily how upset you get. Act like a responsible professional adult. And I can tell you, I'm going to treat you like a responsible professional adult. Unfortunately, though, if you do decide to communicate me in an unprofessional way, whether that is through emails, text messages, Zoom, you name it, I will warn you. And if you continue, I will take a point off of your final grade. If it continues, then the second occurrence will be a 2-point deduction. If it goes on beyond that, I always reserve the right to also notify the school and report it as a disciplinary issue, which can result in you being removed from the class. Also, if you schedule an appointment with me, so this isn't the normal Friday office hours, this is just, if you can't make those office hours, you reach out to me and say, hey, I can't make it in office hours, but I really want to meet with you. I have a question. Can you meet with me on Thursday at 5? And I say, yeah, sure, I'll meet with you then. I send you the Zoom link, and I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting during the Zoom call, and you don't show up. It's unprofessional. I do have a life, right? If I want to meet students outside of my normal office hours, I'm doing it to try to help you. So be respectful, and if you make that appointment, show up. If you don't, I do reserve the right of charging a 1-point deduction for the first occurrence, and then 2 points for every subsequent occurrence on that. Below this, there is an important little message. I'm kind of chuckling here a little bit. So if you're going outside the United States, and this definition of the United States is really states in the United States, right? So if you're going to Puerto Rico, even though that's part of the United States, it's included in what I'm about to say. The U.S. Virgin Islands, Samoa, Guam, any of those. If you're leaving a state in the United States, and you're going anywhere overseas, including U.S. territories, you do need to notify Indian River State College in order to have access to the course, access to your emails and things like that. And the reason why I was chuckling a little while ago is this just happened recently, where my wife and I went overseas. We only went to Mexico, and my wife lost access and wasn't able to enter her final grades. So this happens. She knew better. I knew better. Just something that kind of slipped our mind. And oftentimes I have students that have to go overseas because maybe a family emergency and it slips their mind. But do make sure you do this, because otherwise you'll lose access to Canvas. You won't be able to do your work. Scrolling down here, information about netiquette, attendance policies. This is a fully online class. The way that I determine attendance is that you just show up by doing a graded assignment. So as long as you do one graded assignment every week, you get credit. There's no classes necessarily. There's no classrooms that you go to or anything like that. Additional information down here about late, missed assignments. If you do submit an assignment late, I do charge a late penalty of 15% for each 24-hour period. That includes even if it's 1 minute late. I already mentioned that other than the initial post for the discussion, which is due Thursdays at midnight, the practice assignments, the exams in this class, and the chapter quizzes are all going to be due Sundays at midnight. So say you submit something 5 minutes after that, it's going to be charged 15% penalty. If you submit it after 24 hours, it'll be a 30% penalty. After 48 hours, it'll be a 45% penalty. Thereon and so forth. If you feel that you will not be able to submit your assignments on time, please notify me. Let me know, and I can arrange for an extension. However, remember, I don't answer emails after 5. In order to qualify for an extension, you don't just have to notify me, you have to notify me and get approval. So that means you're not waiting until Saturday or Sunday and saying, oh, darn, man, I don't have any time. You need to notify me and get approval. Key part to that. So again, don't procrastinate. Pretty much the rest of this information is pretty cut and dry. Nothing really that I need to go over. Just make sure that you read it thoroughly. Going back to Canvas now, I'm just going to show you all real quick sort of the normal way in which a week is set up. So after this first week, what you're going to see is that all of the weeks will kind of follow a typical pattern. Now, when you first log into the class, the way that the course is going to show up if you click on this modules page, which is how you're going to access all course materials, just clicking on modules. There's not going to be a tab here for discussion or assignments or quizzes. You're going to access everything solely through that modules tab. If you do this initially, what you're going to see in the course is that all these weeks are going to be grayed out. You see that here, right? You can't click on anything. I can kind of see it, but it's grayed out. The reason for that, I'm just going to scroll up, is remember I said you have to take that orientation quiz and pass it with a score of 100%. When you do that, what will happen is this little circle will turn to a check mark. And all of this course material is going to open up. And in fact, you'll have access to pretty much everything in this course right from the start. Every discussion, every quiz, every practice assignment, every exam. You can certainly work ahead in this class. However, you can't work behind. Remember, I do have that late penalty. Unless you get approval for an extension, it will be a 15% penalty for doing late work. But you can certainly work ahead. So I'm going to leave the student view here just to show you kind of generally how a typical week is set up. So I'm going to skip ahead here, go to week 2. Every week, the first thing you have to do is click on the module overview page. So for week 2, it's this Intro to Psychology module overview. When you click on it, it'll give you a little bit of a brief overview of the topic. It'll talk about the learning outcomes. These are the things that I expect you, as a student in this class, to be able to do after going over the material for this week. So it's important for you to know these things. Now, you probably have guessed this already. You've seen where a lot of things in this class are literally step-by-step instructions. Sure enough, every week there's going to be step-by-step instructions of what you need to do. Generally, what that's going to involve is for you to start by clicking on the study guide button, which is this one right here. That'll pull up a study guide that you need to follow, including key terms or key topics that I expect for you to know. These study guides aren't just helpful for the quizzes, the chapter quizzes, but also form the basis for the exam study guides as well. Once you download that study guide and you're using it, now you got to start learning. There's 2 ways that you can start doing this, and it really depends on what kind of learning style you have. If you're more of an auditory or a visual learner, then I suggest you watch my videos. I'm going to click on the link here and show you. I have a whole series on YouTube of lecture videos. Some of them are a little bit longer. You'll always see where there's a general overview video. Usually these are 20 to 30 minutes. They talk about the whole topic, but they talk about it in a very brief way. There will also be what's known as micro-learning videos. So these are shorter videos, usually between about 5 to 15 minutes, but are much more detailed. Incidentally, if you like my videos, you start listening to them, you use them to study, please just make sure you like them, subscribe if possible. That definitely helps me out. Say you're not an auditory learner, you're not a visual learner, you're somebody who likes to read. Well, then what you're going to do is click on this textbook link. That'll take you to that McGraw-Hill Connect, specifically an assignment called Smart Book within McGraw-Hill Connect. And it'll be specific to each chapter. So when you click on this, it'll take you right to the chapter you need to learn. That chapter, the Smart Book, will be an actual book you read online, but it'll also include other things like little quizzes, things like that. Those aren't graded and those are optional. You don't have to do them, but this will give you access to looking at your actual textbook. Once you decide what you're going to do, right, on my study guide, I'm going to watch the videos, you're watching the videos, you're learning, you're writing down in the study guide what you're learning. Then what you're going to do is go to these practice assignments. Most weeks, not all, but most do have a practice assignment. These are sort of like fun little assignments through McGraw-Hill Connect that help you apply what you're learning. So they're formative, right? They're not meant to test how well you know something. They're meant to help you better understand it. So I suggest you do the practice assignments first. Once you go through that, then you're going to do the discussion. Remember, the initial post will always be due Thursday of the week it's due, prior to midnight. Response will be due Sunday, prior to midnight. There are rubrics available. I showed you how to do that earlier in the video. Make sure you read the rubric carefully so you know exactly what you need to do to get full credit. And then once you're done with all of these, you're ready to take that quiz. You're going to click on the quiz and that'll take you directly to McGraw-Hill Connect. The chapter quizzes, and there's always going to be a chapter quiz every week, just like there's always going to be a discussion every week. The chapter quizzes, though, you can take as many times as you need in order to get 100%. You don't have to. If you take it and you get an 80%, you're like, that's it, I'm done. That's fine. I suggest, though, that everybody take them repeatedly until you get 100%. They pull from a bank of questions, so you're probably going to get different questions every time. So just make sure you go in, you take them, get that 100%. It definitely helps out at the end of the semester when you can kind of pad those grades. So that's it, folks. That's how a typical week is set up. Some weeks may be a little bit different, like you may have 2 practice assignments or you may not have any. But they'll all be set up that same way as far as the study guide, the videos, textbook, discussion, quiz. Please, if you have any questions starting out, reach out to me, but definitely in this first week, make sure you take care of that registration for McGraw-Hill Connect. Make sure you do that orientation quiz. Once you do, everything else will unlock in the course, or at least you'll have the ability to unlock it. And then make sure you do that discussion board, the initial post and the response. Other than that, folks, that's all I got. I hope you all enjoy the class, and I look forward to getting to know all of you as the semester progresses. Take care.